Have you ever wondered why some people seem genuinely at peace while being alone, especially in their later years? What if growing older isn't a journey into loneliness, but an awakening into freedom? Picture yourself sitting quietly beside a gentle river. The sunlight dances on the ripples, painting everything in gold. There's no rush, no need to be anywhere. Just the calm rhythm of your breath and the quiet embrace of the present moment. In our modern society, solitude is often misunderstood. We're taught to fear being alone, as if it signifies abandonment or failure. But what if solitude isn't an emptiness to be filled, but a doorway to something richer? What if, instead of loneliness, it leads us to liberation, inner peace, and self-discovery? From a Buddhist perspective, one of the deepest roots of human suffering is our attachment to external validation. We spend so much of our lives chasing approval, craving connection, and fearing disconnection. Yet real contentment doesn't come from how many people surround us. It comes from how well we know ourselves. Aging isn't about becoming socially irrelevant, it's a sacred phase of release. It's the season where the heart finds rest and the mind returns to stillness. This isn't about rejecting companionship. It's about embracing solitude as a wise and patient teacher. Let's dive deeper into this idea, starting with how our values shift over time. 1. Understanding the shift in priorities. As the years go by, our priorities begin to change. The things that once felt urgent, like status, constant socializing, or seeking companionship, start to lose their grip on us. In our youth, friendships often help us build our identity. We chase them to feel accepted, to belong, to feel seen. But Buddhism reminds us that the self we try so hard to define is actually impermanent, an illusion shaped by ego. Eventually, a quiet transformation takes place. The chase for connection is replaced by a deeper longing, the longing for peace. Friendships that once served as mirrors, reflecting who we thought we were, become less about validation and more about meaning. We stop collecting people like trophies and start asking, is all this noise really necessary? As we age, we find that true fulfillment isn't about how many friends we have, but how deeply we can be with ourselves in stillness. The constant need to perform, to be noticed, to avoid silence, fades. In its place, a quiet contentment begins to bloom. We no longer need to prove anything. The world slows down, and that's where beauty lies. We begin to savor life's simplest offerings, the cool morning air, the slow unfurling of a flower, the comforting weight of a beloved book. These are not signs of isolation. These are signs of liberation. Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises from craving, but in solitude, we learn how to let go. Just as we explored earlier, aging invites us to shift inward, replacing the noise of the world with the quiet truth of who we really are. This next part of the journey leads us even deeper. We begin to release our grip on things that are transient. Like everything else in life, relationships are impermanent, they change, evolve, and sometimes quietly fade, and that's okay. When we stop clinging to connections just to fill a space, we give ourselves the freedom to experience them more fully, without expectations, without attachment. This change in priorities doesn't mean we stop caring about others. It means we start engaging with people from a place of authenticity, not obligation. We become more selective, not because we've grown cold, but because we've grown wise. We begin to see that our energy is limited, and instead of spreading it thin across countless shallow interactions, we choose to invest it where it truly matters. To some, this might look like isolation, but in reality, it's something much deeper, a deepening of self-awareness, of understanding, of presence. When we're alone, we are not lacking, we are full, rich with the texture of our own company. And from this space, something beautiful emerges. We no longer need the world's applause to feel complete. We are already whole. 2. The freedom of self-reliance. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhist philosophy is self-reliance. The Buddha himself left behind his palace, his family, and his wealth to walk a solitary path toward enlightenment. He understood a powerful truth, that attachment often leads to suffering. As we grow older, we begin to see how much of life was spent pleasing others, fitting into expectations, maintaining relationships because we felt we had to. But now, in our later years, something shifts. We are finally free to let go of those social molds. We stop depending on others to feel worthy, and start nurturing our own sense of wholeness. At first, this idea of self-reliance can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. After all, we've spent decades surrounded by people, entangled in conversations, social obligations, and endless roles to play. Stepping back from that can feel unnatural at first, but slowly, a realization begins to form. Self-reliance isn't about pushing people away or cutting ties. It's about freedom, the freedom to engage when it feels true. Not because we feel pressured. The freedom to protect our peace. The freedom to simply exist, without constantly seeking approval from the outside world. Think back to the quietest moments of your life. Maybe it was a sunrise viewed in stillness. Maybe it was the sound of birdsong drifting through an open window. Or the mesmerizing rhythm of waves lapping against the shore. Those moments didn't bring peace because of who was there. They were peaceful because they gave you space to just be. That stillness, that undisturbed presence, is the core of self-reliance. In our younger years, we often look for fulfillment outside ourselves. We chase recognition, love, and a place to belong. But over time, we begin to understand that real fulfillment isn't something we have to chase. It's already within us. There is something profoundly satisfying in knowing that we are enough, just as we are, without anyone needing to tell us so. And from that knowing, we gain the ability to show up for others, not because we need to, but because we choose to. That is the quiet power of self-reliance. From the quiet confidence of self-reliance comes a beautiful shift. We begin connecting with others not from need, but from genuine presence and inner wholeness. We engage with people because we truly enjoy their presence, not out of desperation or the fear of being alone. There's no longer a sense of incompleteness driving us to hold on to relationships that no longer resonate. Instead, we give freely, without expecting anything in return, because we already feel full within ourselves. This change in how we view connection can be profoundly transformative. Solitude no longer feels like something to fear, it becomes something to embrace. We stop seeing ourselves as alone and start recognizing our independence. And in that independence, we discover strength. We uncover peace. We begin living a life guided not by the shifting expectations of the outside world, but by the quiet, steady voice within us, the voice that knows exactly what we need. Self-reliance in our later years isn't about rejection. It's about liberation. It's the realization that everything we once searched for, love, peace, understanding, was never out there. It was always within us. 3. Quality over quantity. The art of meaningful connection. Buddhism gently reminds us of an essential truth. All relationships are impermanent. Friends come and go. Some drift away with time. Others live on only as cherished memories. But rather than mourn these natural goodbyes, we can learn to celebrate them, for they were beautiful, fleeting moments in the journey of our lives. As we grow older, a deeper understanding begins to take root. It's not the number of people we have around us that brings fulfillment. It's the depth of the connections we share. A single, heartfelt conversation can mean far more than years of surface-level interaction. There's a Zen saying, when drinking tea, drink tea. It reminds us to be fully present in whatever we're doing. The same applies to relationships. Rather than scattering our energy across dozens of shallow connections, we can choose to focus on the few who truly nourish our spirit. What does this look like in real life? Picture yourself sharing a simple meal with an old friend. There's no pressure to impress. No need for grand stories or performances. Just a quiet, sincere presence. In that moment, you realize that true connection doesn't depend on how often you see someone, or how flashy the interaction is. It's about authenticity. It's about feeling truly seen by another soul. Now, contrast that with being in a crowded room full of acquaintances. The conversations are light, the laughter frequent, but nothing touches the core of who you are. In our younger years, we may have chased after quantity, more friends, more social events, more noise, but time brings wisdom. We start to see that real fulfillment isn't in collecting relationships. It's in cultivating the ones that matter. With age, we gain the clarity to choose our interactions more intentionally. We no longer feel obligated to accept every invitation or maintain connections that no longer bring joy. Instead, we seek moments that feel real, that feel nourishing, that feel like home. From choosing depth over quantity in our relationships, we begin to see connection in a new light, more intentional, more mindful, and more meaningful. This isn't selfishness, it's discernment, and by practicing this kind of thoughtful discernment, we liberate ourselves to pour energy into the connections that truly nourish our spirit. This shift in perspective also transforms the way we understand companionship. It's no longer just about close friends or family, it becomes something much broader, more subtle, and deeply beautiful. We begin to notice connection in its simplest, most delicate forms. A warm smile exchanged with a stranger. The quiet nod of mutual understanding between lifelong friends. Or even the gentle rustle of trees as we walk through a peaceful park. Connection isn't limited to people. It exists in the way we interact with the world around us. All it takes is our presence. And when we fully embrace the idea of quality over quantity, we open ourselves to a powerful practice, the art of deep listening. In Buddhist tradition, listening is not just a skill, it is considered a profound act of love. When we truly listen, not to reply, not to plan our next words, but simply to be there, we honor the other person's existence. We let them feel seen and heard. This kind of presence can transform even the briefest interaction into something meaningful. A passing moment becomes a shared experience. A conversation becomes a connection. So as we move through life, let us hold this close. All relationships are impermanent, just like everything else, but the depth of our attention, the honesty of our presence, and the love we extend, those are the things that stay. They're what give our lives depth, color, and richness. And in the end, it's not about how many hands we've shaken. It's about how many hearts we've truly touched. 4. The beauty of solitude and reflection. Solitude is not an emptiness to fear, it is a sanctuary to cherish. In the Buddhist tradition, monks often retreat into silent meditation. Not because they're turning their backs on the world, but because they long to understand it more deeply. The same principle gently applies to growing older. Rather than rushing to fill every moment with noise, chatter, or distraction, we can learn to welcome silence. Silence becomes the space where reflection blossoms. It gives us the rare chance to slow down, to process the lives we've lived, to accept the things we cannot change, and to gently release lingering regrets. In this sacred stillness, a powerful truth emerges: we are whole. Even when we are alone, there is something deeply grounding about sitting quietly with our own thoughts, about offering ourselves the compassion to simply be, without judgment, without interruption. In today's world, moments of real silence are rare. They're often drowned out by constant stimulation. But if we learn to pause, to truly step away from distractions, we unlock something precious. We gain clarity. We can reflect on our choices, our lessons, and the journey that has shaped us. Too often, solitude is mistaken for loneliness. But that's a misunderstanding. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Solitude, on the other hand, is the presence of the self. When we learn to truly befriend ourselves, solitude becomes a gift, not a punishment. It offers us space to breathe, to grow, to see life for what it really is, a fleeting, fragile, yet stunningly beautiful journey. A journey filled with moments, some joyful, some painful, but each rich with opportunity for insight. Throughout history, spiritual seekers have turned to solitude for their deepest revelations. The Buddha himself meditated alone beneath the Bodhi tree, and it was there, in the quiet, that he awakened. From the stillness of solitude, we gain not only peace but a deeper understanding of who we are, and with that understanding, we return to the world with new clarity. Throughout history, great poets, philosophers, and sages have all turned inward to seek truth. They found wisdom not in the noise, but in the quiet, in stepping back just far enough to see the world clearly. In that same spirit, solitude becomes a sacred space where insight begins. It's within this quiet that creativity and introspection are nurtured. When we're alone, we're free to engage in what brings us joy, writing without boundaries, painting with abandon, tending to a peaceful garden, or simply sitting with our thoughts in quiet contemplation. These solitary practices don't isolate us, they enrich us. They remind us that fulfillment doesn't require the presence of others. It's something we can cultivate from within. That said, embracing solitude doesn't mean we shut the world out. It's not about isolation. Rather, it's about balance. It's about knowing when to connect and when to retreat. It's the wisdom of allowing silence and stillness to become a regular part of life, not as an escape, but as a way to deepen our self-awareness. In the end, solitude is not something to fear. It's something to treasure. It's a path to self-discovery, a gateway to peace. And once we learn to sit comfortably in our own presence, we realize we're never truly alone. We are always held by the quiet company of our own soul. 5. The importance of family and community. As friendships naturally ebb and flow with time, the importance of family and community often becomes more apparent. This isn't about falling into dependency. It's about stepping into our role as wisdom keepers, guides, mentors, and living links between generations. Buddhism speaks of interdependence, the deep truth that we are all connected in an intricate web of cause and effect. While solitude nourishes the soul, so does giving. In our later years, we're offered a unique opportunity to pass down hard-earned wisdom, to serve as steady lights for others, and to leave behind something more lasting than ourselves. Family, whether defined by blood or chosen through bonds of love, becomes a sacred space where unconditional support thrives. A quiet conversation with a grandchild, a heartfelt story shared around the dinner table, a moment of gentle advice offered in passing. These are more than just memories, they're legacies in motion, silent ripples that continue long after we're gone. Community, too, plays a vital role in sustaining our sense of belonging. It may be the familiar face of the grocer, the kind wave of a neighbor, or the shared silence in a meditation circle. These interactions, though simple, offer warmth and meaning. Unlike friendships in youth, which often centered on ambition, entertainment, or adventure, connections in later life are defined by depth, by sincerity, by the quiet understanding that presence is often the greatest gift we can give. And in giving, whether it's our time, our presence, or our stories, we find purpose. We find that being there for others becomes not just an act of kindness, but a source of joy, a reminder that even as we grow inward, we can still reach outward with grace, with wisdom, and with love. From the joy of giving and the warmth of community, we're reminded that what truly endures is not how much we do, but how deeply we give and how genuinely we live. In Buddhism, the practice of dana, generosity, is considered one of the most honored virtues. It is said that giving freely, without expecting anything in return, purifies the heart. It softens the ego and opens us to a deep, expansive sense of peace. But perhaps the most profound realization is this: true connection isn't about how much we give or how often. It's about presence. Whether it's a heartfelt conversation with a loved one, a quiet afternoon spent teaching a life skill to someone younger, or a simple act of kindness offered to a stranger, each of these moments becomes a reminder. A reminder that we're not separate. We're all connected by invisible threads of care, compassion, and shared experience. In the end, family and community are not defined only by relationships. They are defined by the legacy we leave behind, the wisdom we offer, the love we extend, the moments we choose to make meaningful. These are the footprints that remain, long after we're gone. 6. Letting go of social expectations. Still, one of the most liberating shifts as we grow older is this: we no longer have to live by the world's script. Society may try to tell you that you need more friends, more activity, more social validation, and that isolation is something to be feared. But Buddhism teaches a different lesson. Suffering arises when we cling to expectations, especially those imposed from outside ourselves. And old age? It offers a sacred chance to step back from all that noise, to finally live life on your own terms. For so much of our lives, we are molded by what others expect, what we should achieve, how we should act, who we should spend time with. We chase recognition, collect friendships like trophies, and measure our worth by the size of our circle. But then something shifts. A realization quietly dawns. None of that defines us. Letting go of social expectations means embracing the freedom to live authentically. It means understanding that you are under no obligation to maintain relationships that drain you. That there's no need to fit into outdated ideals of what a healthy, social life should look like. True peace doesn't come from pleasing others, it comes from honoring yourself. This isn't about withdrawing from the world. It's about showing up in a way that feels true. For some, it might mean choosing meaningful solitude over superficial interaction. For others, it could mean setting boundaries, saying no without guilt, or simply choosing rest over obligation. Buddhism reminds us, suffering arises from attachment. When we attach our self-worth to how socially active we are, we hand our happiness over to others. But when we let go of those expectations, a new kind of contentment enters, a quiet joy rooted in presence, in self-acceptance, in inner calm. At the end of the day, the true measure of a life well lived is not in the number of events attended or friends collected. It is in whether you found peace, deep, abiding peace, within yourself, not through external approval, but through alignment with your own truth. Letting go is not loneliness. It is freedom, and in that freedom, we come home to ourselves. Once we let go of external expectations and learn to live from within, we begin to reconnect with ourselves, with others, and with life in its most genuine form. 7. Practical considerations. Redefining connection. As we age, our bodies change, our health, mobility, and energy levels shift. But these changes aren't limitations. They are invitations. Invitations to redefine how we experience connection in a way that feels more aligned, more intentional, and more sustainable. We often imagine connection as something big, grand celebrations, large gatherings, long conversations. But in truth, connection lives in the smallest of moments. It's in a warm smile shared with a stranger, the echo of a child's laughter drifting through a quiet afternoon, the gentle joy of opening a handwritten letter sent from afar. These small moments often carry more emotional weight than hours of forced socializing. They linger longer in the heart, and with modern technology at our fingertips, we can stay connected in thoughtful, manageable ways. A brief video call with a loved one, a kind message sent in the morning, even the shared silence over the phone with someone who understands us deeply. These quiet exchanges remind us that we are never truly alone. Rather than stretching ourselves thin with constant activity, we can choose what truly nourishes us. We can say yes to what gives back, and gently say no to what drains us. Buddhism teaches us the importance of embracing change, of moving with the flow instead of resisting it. If our bodies move slower, we don't struggle, we adjust. If we can't travel far, we bring our awareness closer, finding beauty in the space we already occupy. Because real connection doesn't require motion, it requires presence. So instead of mourning what we used to do, we ask, how can I experience connection in this moment, in this body, in this season of life? Maybe it's choosing to go deeper with the relationships we already have, rather than chasing new ones. Maybe it's forming a quiet bond with nature, feeling the wind dance through the trees, listening to the rustle of leaves as if they're speaking in ancient language just for us. By redefining what connection means, we lift the weight of outdated expectations. We learn to value the quiet, the simple, the sincere, and in doing so, we realize connection isn't measured by how many people surround us. It's defined by how deeply we engage with the life unfolding right in front of us. 8. A legacy of wisdom. Buddhism teaches that the most lasting gift we can leave behind is not money, not status, but wisdom. The kind of wisdom born from experience, from presence, from a heart that has learned to see clearly. Old age is not about accumulating more. It's about distilling life down to its purest essence. Through storytelling, we pass down not just events, but meaning. We share our lessons, wrapped in memory, woven with emotion, offering guidance that only lived experience can give. Through small acts of kindness, we teach what true compassion looks like. Through our calm, we model what peace really feels like. We become living examples of what it means to be content, not because we had it all, but because we understood what truly mattered. From the wisdom we pass on, we begin to see that our presence, calm, grounded, and authentic, can ripple far beyond our own lifetime. Even in solitude, a life lived with clarity and compassion continues to give. When the mind is unburdened by longing, and the heart rests in peace, our impact stretches outward like gentle waves across still water. A life guided by wisdom doesn't end, it echoes. Every insight we've shared, every gentle word of encouragement offered, becomes a seed, and each seed takes root in someone else's heart. Over time, these small offerings become part of something far greater, a shared human story, a collective memory that lives on. This is how we leave a legacy, not through wealth, or monuments, or accolades, but through the lives we've touched, through the quiet transformations we've inspired simply by being present. 9. Embracing the gift of your own company. At the core of Buddhist teaching lies a simple but powerful truth. Suffering is born from craving, from chasing what we lack, from resisting what is. But when we learn to be with ourselves, fully, without judgment, we discover a joy that doesn't come and go. A joy that shines steadily from within, like a candle that needs no wind to dance. Old age, contrary to what many believe, is not just about letting go. It is about returning to ourselves. It's an invitation to live more truthfully, more gently, more freely, unshackled from the weight of expectations. We spent so many years trying to fit in, to meet demands, to play roles we never chose. We hold up versions of ourselves for the world to see. But in solitude, those roles quietly dissolve, and beneath them, we find the raw, beautiful truth of who we really are. There's a sacred beauty in that unveiling. The silence that once felt uncomfortable becomes our sanctuary. The stillness we once tried to avoid becomes a deep ocean of wisdom. We begin to listen, not to the world, but to the inner voice that's been whispering all along. In that stillness, we see that happiness was never something we had to chase. It's been here, waiting, right within us. Some fear that embracing solitude means giving up on connection. But the opposite is true. When we find peace within, we stop needing others to complete us, and begin loving them more freely. We no longer hold people with expectations. We hold them with grace. Relationships become lighter, more spacious, more meaningful. We don't give love because we're empty. We give because we're full. And that's when a deeper realization arises. We were never alone. The universe breathes with us. The rustling trees, the golden sun, the cool wind on our skin, they are not separate. They move through us. We belong to them, just as they belong to us. Solitude, in its truest form, is not isolation. It is union with ourselves, with life, with everything that ever was and will be. This is the gift of our own company. It is not a burden to endure, but a treasure to hold close. It is the chance to meet ourselves anew, to sit with our soul and say, I am enough. So, as we continue on this path of aging, let us not look back in sorrow or forward in fear. Let us be here, right here, with reverence. Let us sit in the quiet, not to escape the world, but to come home to ourselves. Because in that sacred stillness, we do not disappear, we arrive. We remember who we are, and in that remembrance, we are finally free.